the focaccia situation. And as you can see here, that yeast is brewing like no tomorrow. And it smells beautiful. It smells like a brewery. Starting off, I'm going to be adding 650 grams of wholemeal plain flour, which works out to be the equivalent of about, I think, 80 grams of carbohydrates a serving. Maybe it's a bit, no, it's less. It's a bit less there. But yeah, using 660 grams gives me roughly about 10 servings of this. So when it breaks down, I'm getting roughly about between 40 and 60 grams of carbohydrates per serving. So let's throw that in, 650 grams, here we go. We're going to be now adding 150 grams of plain yogurt. And now I'm just going to add in my yeast. I'm going to stir this through generously until we start getting a dough consistency. More water. Ooh, I can smell that brewing process starting to take place. That's right, getting our hands messy now. Finishing that dough ball. Oh yeah. And you can look at that. That's prime. So the dough's finished off here, and we will let it rest and come back to it for the next stage. 50 grams of protein yogurt to this bowl now. Oh, 50 grams. Getting our salt. And then we'll place our dough ball on here and lather the yogurt on top. So just getting that yogurt in here. Just even it out. I feel like most of that yogurt's ended up on my hand. Such is life. Gonna let this focaccia rest overnight. The dough. The slower the better, really, in the rising process. Yeah, I'm gonna have a beautiful lunch tomorrow. Now that I've got my focaccia doing its thing, I am moving on to prepping my poached chicken. And you know, you're probably all thinking, oh, that sounds horrible, Will. Why would you put yourself through that? Well, turns out we can actually make this stuff taste pretty good. And I'm going to show you how. Starting off with, I've got a kilo of chicken here. And if you look in there, it probably looks real gross, real seedy, but I've actually frozen this chicken with a seasoning on it. So it already has an oregano, fresh oregano that is, in there. That is a bit sad, isn't it? Gonna add in my garlic powder here. Less is more, remember? I mean, more is less. More is less in this situation. Then we want to add a good dollop of salt. And then I also like to add lemon juice here as well. I guess, you know, what do you do? It'll cook. Yeah, so that's it really. It's pretty straightforward. It's just a matter of, you know, throwing it in some water, letting it boil. And what I like about this is that, you know, I've got protein for the week, so you know, with this protein I can make so many different things with it. Yeah, that's why I like it. And, you know, it's also hitting my macronutrients goals as well. This chicken is cooked. So now what I'm going to do is cut it up. It'll be nice. Yeah, it's so tender. Whoa. Maybe it is worthwhile keeping this stuff cooking for longer. That is. It's like it's gone through the. It's almost as if it's gone through a. Look at that. That is tender as. Look at that. All that chicken for the week. You can make it simple. You know, it's all about what you feel like. You could have chicken pasta, fried rice, which is one of my favourites. You name it. You've got the protein ready. Welcome back everyone. So now I'm on to making my pre-workout meal. And this has in it, well basically it's a peanut butter pudding. You're basically getting the idea of a peanut butter sandwich, but you're making a high carb protein flavoursome experience. It's a pudding, I guess, but you could also say it's a lot of other things. It's high in carbs to fuel my actual training. You know, when you get lean enough, you know, your body's essentially running off whatever you put in the system. So yeah, let's get to it. So this is to make the base. We're making the base to start off with. Add some almond milk. About 50 grams. And all we're doing is stirring this up. Next we're adding is xanthan gum. Now xanthan gum is a thickener, and this is what's going to bind this all together and create the viscosity we're looking for here. Dash of vanilla essence. Now what makes this peanut butter, of course, is peanut butter. We've got 12 grams here of peanut butter 2, PB2. And then adding our peanut butter, the real thing this time. So what's the go of peanut butter? And what's the go of bodybuilders not liking fats? Well, when you look at it, right, what constitutes or what allows the body to burn fat as your fuel source, your own body's fat energy, fat cells, is basically, you got to think of the body like a car. So, you know, you can run your car off petroleum or petrol, and then you can also run your car off diesel. Now, carbohydrates is petroleum, and then fats are what I would consider a diesel. So you're basically looking at two different engines or two different fuel types, and the way that you keep your body fat, or the way you keep your body fat low, is you basically want to have one fuel source running, whether that's triglycerides, which is fats, or carbohydrates, which is glycogen. Now after we've done all that, we can finally mix up the pudding. Stirring until it gets really nice and thick. This can take a bit of time. Like if you're adding honey, you're going to have the honey flavor. And I'm convinced that honey is part of the peanut butter jelly experience. I think dates add textural dimension, which, you know, I think is fun. Now, I like to use dates in threes, and the reason being is 3 roughly works out to be about 14 grams of sugar. So just chopping them up nicely. Hang on. We've got our berries. I'm going to get 100 grams of berries here. Just going to add my psyllium husk. I'm adding 4 grams. 4 grams is an equivalent serving. In fact, 4 grams is too much. Use 2. It gets a bit too thick when you go that crazy. So I've learned from experience. Get some more stir in there. Just throw a dashing in. Add some water. And we're just going to put that in the microwave for about 2 minutes. So yeah, this is how it's going to look. Doesn't look very flush just yet, but you wait. You know, a lot of fellas and people like to use corn syrup to make their things thicken, but yeah, you can use psyllium husk, you can use xanthium gum, and you're going to achieve the same effect. And if you don't love the idea of using a microwave to do all this, you can of course use the stove. I just like using the microwave because it's convenient. Even it out. Alright, let's build. So, getting our peanut butter mixture. You can see that's nice and thick now. Adding that to the bottom. Oats. Now for this recipe I've scheduled 30 grams. But yeah, I just think it needs, next time I make it, just need to add a bit more sweetness to it, and that'll be fire. Aside from that, I'm very much enjoying this. We're back the next day, and now we get to build the focaccia, which is pretty exciting. Got my flavours over here, herbs and spices, along with that my protein. So instead of using olive oil, I'm using a protein yogurt. Have experimented with it in the past. Yeah, basically managed to colour some roast vegetables with it. So it's going to be interesting to see whether this focaccia goes brown or if it goes charcoal. 3. So adding to it, we're going to add salt, generous amount, a little bit of pepper, just for fun, garlic powder I should say, and a touch of thyme, not too much, less is more. And now I have some fresh rosemary here, chop it off actually, just to allow it to be fragrant. On, we've got our baking dish here. The idea behind using this one is I want it to rise similar to a loaf, because the end goal with this focaccia is to make a focaccia that's good for sandwiches. So starting off, I want to spray this baking tray, and you're like, what, Will, you're using olive oil? And it's like, yes, but it's actually to prevent the baking paper from sticking to the tray. And now just going along, cutting a piece that's big enough to stick in the baking tray. And what I like to do is just allow it to stick to the olive oil. And then I want to cut off any excess areas. See here, there's just a bit on the side, so I'm going to cut that off. There we go. Baking paper. So I'm just grabbing a nice little brush here. And I'm going to use the yogurt. Just lather at the bottom of the baking tray. Once again, all this process is just to prevent any sort of sticking from occurring. Great, so that's done. You know, one thing I just realized I forgot to add to our herb mixture here is fresh Greek oregano, and that is the selling point. This is the key ingredient. I'm going to grab myself here a couple of sticks. This stuff I love. Let's put them out. Like, it's one thing to use oregano, but it's another to use Greek oregano. Oh, it just smells amazing. You can't have enough of it. You know what I mean? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add just a bit of salt to it. And I didn't put salt in at the start because I just feel like salt can prevent the fermentation process. You know, salt will slow down your yeast from rising. Now all I'm going to do is give the sides a good shimmy. And this process isn't to knead the dough. Just want to activate the gluten in a sense. So just folding it over just a bit. I just want to get a bit more salt in there. Just letting it come out. Try not to do too much to it because I'm trying to keep all the air in the dough itself. But just trying to work that salt in so the bread has an even distribution of salt through it. Ooh, that was aggressive. Great. Going to put the dough in and try and move it so it takes up the majority of the space. Probably needs to just be a little bit more even. So now that we've allowed the focaccia to rise a bit and settle into the tray, I'm now going to be doing the iconic finger pressing technique. I probably should have done this a bit earlier, but you know, such is life. Getting that going. Beautiful. But it looks like I've gone a bit too far. Oh, it doesn't look too bad. I was a bit scared there. It's over-browned it a bit. Whoa. So I've allowed the bread to rest for a bit. I'm just going to pull it out a bit of its the longer you allow it to rest, the less likely it is to get damaged from taking it out of the parchment paper. That's how it looks. It's beautiful, beautiful piece of bread. So that's 25 grams of the dip. Let's thinly lather that on. Build the tomato. Oh, that slice is a bit big. Onion. Then let's add the chicken. People often think that I use a lot of... You know what? Let's go this route. So yeah, there it is. It's pretty good. The flavors are beautiful. It's got very much a sour tartiness, probably from the fermentation process. Because I've added yogurt to it, I feel as if that's an additional character, and it's also changed how that bread would normally ferment. So yeah, it's got an extra tartiness to it, and it's pretty sensational. Is it truly focaccia? Well, to be honest, I guess if you were to look at it traditionally, no, it's not. But at the same time, you know, I'm not too particularly keen on eating that much olive oil in one sitting, you know. So authentically, no, it's not. But we've got a very similar texture, very similar flavour profile. And to me, that's a big win.